Sydney's CBD will never be the same. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and once again I have a stein of coffee and an interesting article I thought we'd have a look at. This is from the ABC, and it aligns with other articles and discussions we've had regarding consumers' behaviour changing and demand for commercial buildings changing. We looked at Dexus and the changes they were making to compensation and borrowing extra money and consultant freezes and hiring freezes because of the uncertainty in their market. They're the largest landlord of commercial office buildings in Australia. And here this piece from ABC is discussing that Sydney's CBD will look very different after the pandemic. So let's have a look at this, because I suspect behavioural changes will happen from just people simply budgeting a bit smarter, not borrowing after-pay money to buy a pair of pants, to buying maybe, going to Aldi instead of Coles to get cheaper brand items, to maybe more people working from home. These, look at this setup, each desk, each chair, that costs money. It's one thing I did in my business. We had standing desks because we built all our furniture out of just hand-stained plywood, built standing desks, and I saved money on chairs for my staff. One thing I do in this, I'd have staff would be required, new hires, they'd have to adjust the desks to their height. So you give them a tape measure and some tools, just in the office. Because it's all plywood, they can cut it up, they can use the saw, everything. So you would get a really good sense of, because remember, I'm an architect, and if people can't cut and adjust a piece of timber, it's a little worrying. You'd get a good sense of if they were going to last or if they weren't by how they handled that little project. I remember we had one guy who was literally standing out the front of the office with a saw in hand, trying to cut a piece of timber with a power saw up in the air. He didn't last too long. He didn't have a very good work ethic, to be honest. But still, that was a good warning sign. Maybe I should start doing that if I ever hire staff again. Interviews. Here's a piece of timber. Show me how you cut it. Some of Australia's corporate giants are warning Sydney's CBD will be changed forever by the pandemic. As the federal government begins easing social distancing restrictions, some businesses are navigating a safe return to the office. But with working from home now the status quo, there are doubts once bustling CBD workplaces will ever return to the way they were. Westpac CEO Peter King said the introduction of flexible working conditions had largely been a healthy change. What has happened through the pandemic is managers have learned to manage remotely. Employees have learned to work remotely, and it's happening at scale, Mr. King said. So this could be, in some ways, the ultimate benefit out of this entire process. People could get more flexibility. When you work from home, you've got more time. Sure, you've got to put up with the kids, and you can probably hear mine in the background, but that's part of life. You don't have to commute anymore. Even I used to have a 30-minute commute every morning. I'm there and back, there and back. Now I don't have to do that since we moved the office home. I can do that. Spend that time making my YouTube channel. So there's lots of opportunities that come out of avoiding just that dead time. Frankly, for us, I'm also eating a lot healthier because I'll have a steak for lunch. I'll cook it myself rather than going out or taking a packed lunch. Packed lunch is never as good. Although we did tend to cook steaks in the office too sometimes. So whether we go back to the size of workforce in the CBD is an open question. The City of Sydney makes up 7% of the Australian economy, and council estimates its revenue will drop by about 75 million over 6 months from April to September. Among small businesses suffering massive losses is Navago Espresso, a cafe that depends on earnings made from office workers queuing up for coffees or lunch. Well, yeah, they're going to cop it. All those little cafes where you pay an outrageous amount for a coffee and like $20 for an average sandwich, they're going to hit it. And they're not cheap to run those places. You've got the expensive rents. You've got the expensive fit-outs. You can see there, the pretty lights he has. It's not cheap, guys. Owner Charles Wang said business was down 85%, and he was concerned about reducing numbers of people in the workplaces. Working from home would significantly impact my business, a decline in revenue, staff hours, and even the value of my business if I were to sell, he said. We 100% rely on people coming to the office. It's not like other cafes who are also doing it tough, but still have some businesses from the locals, he said. So that, I mean, you can't complain about that, because that's also a big advantage, having these people trapped in these towers that need their coffee to live. Need it to live. That's an advantage. You can charge a premium too for what you're providing. I can't pay $5 for coffee anymore. I'll go to 7-Eleven, have one of their cappuccinos, and honestly, most of the time I can't tell the difference between it and a hoity-toity coffee in the city. But I have trained myself to drink instant coffee. Yeah, that's just years of, well, that was back when I was a student, then I became a coffee snob, and I still have the espresso machine now. I've got it up and running again, and occasionally I'll make myself a nice ground coffee, but I'm becoming a coffee bogan, guys. I'm drinking too much of the instant. You gotta help me. So, he used to churn out 1,200 cups of coffee a day, but the number now sits at about 200, and that's a good day in the current climate, according to Mr. Wang. It will just look different. Australia's largest insurer, IAG, has its main office above the Navajo Espresso, but all of its employees are working from home. IAG Pandemic Crisis Director Susan Story is looking at a phased return to work for some staff, including staggering start times and rostering. Will be guided by advice from the government and health authorities, but not everyone will be able to return to the office at the same time, she said. And will they? Do they need to? Ms. Story sympathizes with small businesses like Navajo Espresso, but admits the return of a full office is unlikely. The safety of our employees remains the priority, but of course, those social interactions we have at work are really important, and we miss them, she said. I think eventually we will return to a safe and vibrant city, but it will just look different to how it used to be. Maybe you'll have people coming in at different times. Maybe you'll have one shift coming in for the first few days of the week and then another shift coming in for the other few days of the week. Maybe you'll have targeted days when people can come together for business interactions or meetings. Maybe you could do those, not even at an office place. You could do it at a rented, shared place or a cafe. I remember having a coffee with one gentleman whose entire company, they had an app. They had an app on their mobile phone which could tell them where they could work for free, where they could get free internet. And they'd all just log it all together because they didn't want an office. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. Now, the problem with architecture is you need pretty beefy computers to do some of the rendering and animation, but a lot of the drafting, most of the animation, you could do on an average laptop and carry that around. Maybe I should have done that. That would have saved me a lot of rent. On Thursday, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the pandemic shutdown was costing the Australian economy $4 billion a week. The government is expected to make a major announcement about easing the restrictions on Friday. Well, there you go. So, guys, more arguments against the return to normalcy in the commercial office sector. I mean, look at all this. Is a big staff room, big fin. This is expensive here. 2 fridges. They've got stoves for functions and events, and they're nice spaces. They're nice, well decked out, expensive chairs. I'm just seeing how expensive all of these things are. You'd be shocked at how expensive some of this commercial furniture is, because it's on a level of quality just far superior to the average stuff you get at IKEA. But there's a lot of office people who can make do with IKEA, a lot of home office people that can. A lot of people who are even cheaper. Well, actually, it doesn't work out cheaper to do what we're doing with building everything out of hand-stained plywood, locally sourced. But it gives you flexibility. It's very easy for us to cut a piece of timber and build a new bookshelf out of a desk. You can't really do that out of a pre-laminated piece of timber here, so... or composite laminate, tabletop or countertop. So there you have it, guys. Companies warn CBD may never be the same. It's going to affect lots of small businesses and the valuation of their businesses, as they said. I think it will flow through to office vacancy rates that we're seeing, in Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. Give it a few years, particularly with a recession hitting, and that'll affect the value of the real estate investment trusts and other businesses. What do you think, guys? Do you think this will be a prolonged cultural shift or just a small blip? As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Thank you for watching. like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support us, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can use our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay, or Independent Reserve or Kucoin. You can use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, support us via buying merch from HeiseSays, or you can use PayPal. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.